Williams, are you all right?
Never better.
It does seem to me that he's changed, yes.
Living certainly arrives with an extraordinary pedigree. It's based on one of the most famous films by one of the most famous Japanese filmmakers, Akira Kurosawa's 1952 movie Ikiru. It was adapted by one of Britain's most distinguished novelists, Japanese-born Nobel Prize winner Sir Kazuo Ishiguro.
How did it happen? Small wonder I didn't notice what I was becoming.
Dad, you all right?
Ishiguro isn't even a screenwriter. He's first and foremost a novelist, best known for the brilliant Remains of the Day and Never Let Me Go. But he was obsessed by Ikiru, determined to remake it, and remake it specifically with Bill Nighy.
From when I was a child, what I wanted was to be a gentleman.
Bill Nighy has a certain English quality, more specifically a very old-fashioned English character that was prevalent in the 50s and early 60s. And it was that quality that resonated with Ishiguro because it was identical to the Japanese salaryman featured in Ikiru.
Life just crept up on me, one day preceding the next. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Not happy, not unhappy.
Living opens waiting for the commuter train to London. It's Peter Wakeling's first day on the job and he's a little over-enthusiastic, a tendency he's warned off by his workmates. In particular, they advise him to restrain himself in front of the boss, Mr. Williams, Bill Nighy.
Mr. Williams, a little on the frosty side, perhaps. Not too much fun and laughter. Rather like church.
Their office is part of the Public Works Department, where they're responsible for making sure as little as possible actually gets done. And Mr. Williams seems admirably suited for such a role. His catchphrase is, "File it, no harm." And then one day the unthinkable happens. Mr. Williams is late because of a doctor's appointment.
Mr. Williams, Doctor will see you now.
The results have come back. It's never easy, this.
Quite.
Back in the office, everyone is shocked that Mr. Williams takes the entire day off. They don't realise he's been given a specific amount of time to live and no idea what to do with it.
If only to be alive for one day. But I realise that I don't know how.
Well, the first thing he does is go somewhere new for lunch, where he meets one of those ill-dressed poets who used to infest 50s films for a while. In this case, he's played by Tom Burke, who's rather good at this sort of thing in films like The Wonder. Tom takes Mr. Williams on a bohemian night out, and Mr. Williams decides to extend his leave from the office.
This man who until yesterday was living a shell of an existence.
And I so very much do not wish to do so.
Having opened himself up to possibilities, Mr. Williams starts to wonder if there's anything he could or should be doing with his life. What if, for instance, instead of finding excuses not to make public works happen, he looked for something that might be worth doing? And while he's thinking along these lines, he bumps into Miss Harris, who recently left the office to get a job at a Lions Corner house.
Mr. Williams, it is you.
I was thinking lunch at Fortnum's.
Fortnum's?
Why not?
Miss Harris is played by Amy Lou Wood, who's new to me because I never saw her BAFTA-winning performance in the TV series Sex Education. She's a delight as a rather unlikely muse for a runaway civil servant. She agrees to go for lunch with Mr. Williams to the rather swish Fortnum and Masons.
Mr. Williams, I'll tell you my secret nickname for you. Mr. Zombie.
Mr. What?
Zombies are sort of dead, but not dead.
Well, sir, it's time to live a little.
Now, before we go further, I should lay my cards on the table. Speaking as someone who arrived in Guildford, Surrey at the age of 5 and has clear memories of all the bowler hat commuters featuring in Living, it's almost impossible for me not to respond to the almost identical experience of screenwriter Kazuo Ishiguro.
When I was growing up in Surrey, I travelled every morning to school on the same train line as the commuters from Guildford going into Waterloo. And so I was very familiar with all these bowler-hatted gents, going into the city. And also, I arrived in Britain at the age of 5 in 1960. And so I'm old enough to have remembered that generation that kind of disappeared in the 60s, of English people who still thought they had to behave in a certain kind of British manner.
Similarly, the music, the stock footage and the films that Mr. Williams and Miss Harris take in are so weaponised in my own memory that there was no way I wouldn't react positively to Living automatically.
Today is my pictures day. I was merely wishing for a companion. Oh, well. Cary Grant, Miss Harris. I understood you were quite fond of him.
But there's far more to the film than simply accurate targeting. The script is dazzling, and yes, it includes the shock surprise that made Kurosawa's original film such an unexpected success. The director is a South African chap called Oliver Hermanus. I have no idea whether this is beginner's luck or not, but he doesn't put a foot wrong anywhere in Living.
Any female trouble?
Nothing but, Sergeant.
And have you ever had any children before?
Oh, my aching back. You know that awful feeling before breakfast?
No, Captain, I don't.
Oh, Sergeant, you're lucky.
However, the film would never have worked without the key performance. Bill Nighy is always good, even if he's occasionally squandered his gifts in rather unworthy films. So it's gratifying to see him in something that really allows him to shine and sing. Bill has been nominated for several awards this year. That he hasn't won says more about what it takes to win these sorts of competitions than it does about the quality of the work. Go and see Living and make up your own minds, and take a hanky or two.
Bravo, Miss Harris. I remember what it's like to be alive.